We continue our off-season episodes with a special fan interview. We're going to find out what is it like to be an LA Kings fan in Ireland. That's next on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for almost 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 16 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for 30 years. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. We are excited to welcome in a Kings fan from overseas, currently living in Ireland. He is active on social media. On Twitter, he is at LA_Kings_IRE. His Twitter handle is LA Kings Ireland. And it says in his Twitter bio, quote, "One man's ongoing struggle to follow his favorite hockey team from thousands of miles away." So let's find out a little bit about him and a little bit about his story of being a Kings fan. We're going to take you 8 hours into the future and about 5,000 miles away to Ireland and bring in Kings fan Stephen Barrett. Hey, Stephen.
How are you doing, Eddie?
I'm doing great. It's awesome to have you on. I'm really intrigued by your story. I've seen you being very active on Twitter. That's how I kind of came to know you. And I know you like to be active and retweet and tweet things about the LA Kings. So I guess the first place we need to start is, where are you in Ireland?
Okay, I live in a city called Galway, which is on the west coast of Ireland. So it's the direct opposite side to Dublin. Yep, that's where I am currently.
And I obviously noticed an accent. Are you born and raised Ireland, or did you come from somewhere else?
No, born and raised in Ireland, here in Galway.
That is amazing. Do you mind me asking what you do for a living?
No, I'm a manufacturing engineer in a small Japanese medical device company. We make coronary catheters that are used in angioplasty procedures.
Wow. Well, obviously, thank you for making the time to join us.
Pleasure.
Now, I was wondering if you would be someone that was from Ireland, or if you had come maybe from North America and moved over for work or something like that. So I'm really intrigued that you are, in fact, born and raised in Ireland. So I'm pretty sure ice hockey is not a major sport in Ireland. So the obvious question is, how in the world did you become a hockey fan? How did you become a Kings fan?
Well, around about the mid-90s is when I started to get into hockey. We had a 1-hour weekly highlight show on this really obscure channel. You know, when there was 14 channels, it was channel 14. It was the channel that no one else watched. And I fell in love with it straight away. The speed, the physicality, the skill, it was it just grabbed me immediately. And as a bit of a jersey nerd, I kind of fell in love with the Kings jersey straight away. Just that black, white, silver look. It's just so smooth, so clean. And Gretzky was still playing for the Kings at that time. It was his last season, 95, 96. And even over here, we'd heard who Wayne Gretzky was. He kind of transcended the sport, kind of like Michael Jordan in the NBA. So it was a very easy decision to become a Kings fan.
So I was thinking about Ireland and hockey, and is there anything that ever popped in my head? The only thing I could come up with, and now granted it's Northern Ireland, but I remember Theo Fleury played his final season with the Belfast Giants. That was the only thing that popped in my head. Do you remember anything about that?
I do, actually. I remember when Theo was there, I went up to watch a game while he was there, because obviously he's a big name. He's huge. He was a superstar in the NHL at the time. Or before that time. But he was like far above the level of the guys he was playing with on the Giants at the time. But so it was great to get to see like a true superstar playing in Belfast. So yeah, he's probably the biggest name that's ever played in Ireland at hockey. So yeah, it was great. Theo
Is
Fleury
there any
memories.
kind of ice hockey at any level? I know Belfast, but is there any teams in Ireland? Is
No,
there a national team? Nothing at all, huh?
there's nothing. There's not even rinks here, Eddie. I mean, I think
Mhm.
there may be one or two in Dublin, but they're like a couple of hours away. It's very much kind of a niche sport. You do sometimes see the odd person with a baseball hat, from a particular team or whatever. But yeah, there's no rinks, there's no ice here, unless I want to go up to Belfast.
How often do you bump into a hockey fan? And when you do, is it miraculous?
Yeah, it is. It's like winning the lotto. It's rare. It's very rare. I actually work with a girl. She used to live in Vegas. She lived there for 2 years, so she's a big Golden Knights fan. So today she was a very, very happy person. But yeah, she's one of the few hockey fans that I know in and around Galway.
So Ireland is 8 hours ahead of Los
Hmm.
Angeles. So when there's a 7:30 home game, that's 3:30 a.m. in Ireland. So how in the world are you able
Uh,
to follow the game, the team? Like I said, you are active on social media. I'm sure that helps a bit as well.
yeah,
Are
big
you
time.
able to actually watch games? Can you record them? Do you even I assume online you could watch games?
Yeah, like we get the NHL app, so I can watch every Kings game. I can watch replays. I can watch the highlights. I used to watch an awful lot more live games when I was younger, but I've got kids now, family, so
Yeah.
it's more difficult to kind of stay up late and watch the games. But I will watch a few live per season, depending on who they're playing. If it's a big game, like during the playoffs, I was watching the Oilers games live. Um, but most of the time, I'll catch the highlights or I'll watch, a full replay the next day. But I rarely miss a game.
And I assume there's no, well, I guess social media, you could get spoilers. Are you able to just avoid social media before you watch a replay,
Yeah,
or how do you handle that?
yeah, no, just first thing in the morning, I just don't look at the phone. I go downstairs, throw on the coffee, and just start watching the game.
Yeah. Now, have you ever been to the States? Is there any chance that you could, at some point, is there a dream of coming to LA to see a
Oh
game?
yeah, that's the dream, Eddie. That's the dream. I have been to the States. I've been to Miami. I've been to New York, but I haven't been out into the West Coast yet. But yeah, the plan is in the next couple of years to head on out to crypto and see them play in person. That's the dream. But as you can imagine, those kinds of trips are once in a lifetime type deals. It's an expensive proposition.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what year it was. Well, certainly it was after you became a Kings fan. They did play two games in London
That's right,
against the
against the Ducks.
Ducks. Was
Hmm.
there ever that wasn't a possibility for you at that time?
Yeah, no, I went to see them in London at the time.
Oh,
I went to see
great.
one of the games. Yeah, yeah, I
Oh,
went. I had to. They were playing
yeah,
so close to home,
yeah.
and it was brilliant. It was great just to see them live. But the dream is to head on out to LA, Southern California, and see them in person in the arena to hear Dieter play on the organ and experience all the atmosphere and everything around the arena. It'd be brilliant.
That's fantastic. Well, hopefully there's a good product on the ice for you to come and visit. And if you do, and I'm still here, certainly let me know, and we'll definitely give you a good welcome here for a
Ah, that'd
Kings
be
game.
brilliant, Eddie. Thank you. That'd be
All
brilliant.
right. We're going to keep talking about the Kings, and I have to ask Steven why Adrian Kempe is a massive red and what that means. I hope it's nothing
No,
nothing
it's
that I'm not.
nothing.
Okay,
No,
good.
it's all good, all clean. It's all
Okay,
good.
good. We're going to get the answer to that question in just a second. But I do want to let you guys know that today's episode of Locked on LA Kings, your team every day, is brought to you by FanDuel. Make your way to FanDuel because right now new customers can get a no sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's $2,500 back in a bonus bet if your first bet doesn't win. They have great promotions there every day. The website is safe, secure, super easy to use. The app as well. And when you win, you get paid immediately. So there's no better place to bet on all the sports action. It is America's #1 sports book. Visit fanduel.com/locked on and get a no sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's fanduel.com/locked on. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Stephen. It says on your Twitter profile that Adrian Kempe is a massive red. I have no idea what that means. Please explain.
It just means that Adrian Kempe is a big Liverpool fan in soccer.
Ah,
So like we would call them, we call them Reds because the team wears red. So he's posted a few times about Liverpool, and it's kind of one of the reasons why he's my favorite player on the Kings at the moment is because he's a big Liverpool fan, and I'm a big Liverpool fan as well. So that's why I put it up there. I don't know, just a bit of fun.
it was certainly intriguing. So I got my. So I also know now who your favorite player is as well.
Yeah. Adrian
So
Kempe.
you obviously have been a Kings fan when they have won their 2 Stanley Cup titles, which
Yep.
is great.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it, the Vegas Golden Knights just won the Stanley Cup. So I have to ask you, Alec Martinez, Jonathan Quick, on the Vegas Golden Knights, how did you handle that whole situation as a Kings fan?
I know I've heard you mention before, Eddie, how you're a fan of the team, the Kings team, regardless of who's playing for it, and I'd be the same as that. I just a Kings fan, so I know that Marty and Quick have won the cup, but I don't tend to think about it too much. Happy for them, kind of, but it doesn't really bother me one way or the other. It doesn't impact the Kings, so I'm just focused on the Kings, and that's it.
Yeah, you and me are kind of the same way in that regard. I think
Yeah.
maybe we're a little bit old school. I think you
Yeah,
and I kind
yeah.
of joined around the same time. I think I was a little bit before you, but in the Gretzky era. I think there are some maybe newer school fans who tend to gravitate more towards players than
Yeah.
teams, it seems like. So I get that there are different kinds of fans. I don't want to come off as my way is the only way, but it's the way for me, and it sounds like it's the way for you.
Yeah, same for me.
It was kind of cool to see Marty hand off the cup to Quickie in the celebration afterwards. But if it was any other team but that team, division rivals, those things really matter to me. And I just,
yeah.
it's funny. My wife is a huge Jonathan Quick fan. She was that was her favorite player, and she has just decided that he doesn't play anymore, that he's retired. She's
probably
decided
for the best.
Yeah, she's just decided he's retired. He doesn't play anymore, and so she doesn't even acknowledge that this is all going on right now.
That's brilliant.
What
Whatever
is
gets
your-
her through it.
That's true. What does your wife or your family think of your interest in hockey? Do they ask you about it at all, or is that just that's just Steven's thing?
No. My wife isn't really into sports at all. But my two boys now they are into hockey. I've managed to get them into hockey. I actually brought my 10-year-old son to see his first hockey game up in Belfast there this past season. So he loved it. So it's great to experience these things with your kids, I think, and it's something that when we go over to the States to see a proper game, I'll be bringing him with me as well. But yeah, my kids like hockey. They'll always ask in the morning, the first thing, how did the Kings do? Did the Kings win? What was the score? But yeah, it's nice to share those experiences with your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very, very cool. You mentioned we talked about the Belfast Giants, and you've gone to some games. Is it do they play against competition from England, or what kind of the league is it? The English league or something like that?
Yeah, the EIHL. It's the English league, so it's teams around Northern Ireland and England. And then they play in what's called the Champions Hockey League as well. So that involves, some of the stronger competition from around Europe who've won their respective leagues. So if you think about like in soccer, there's the Champions League. So it's kind of the equivalent over here for hockey. So the Belfast Giants won the EIHL this season, so they're playing in the Champions Hockey League this year as well. So they're actually a really successful team in their 20 plus years of existence. They've won quite a fair bit of silverware. So, they've been consistently good, which is great. It's definitely made the product more popular over in Northern Ireland. They get really good crowds over there. Maybe a little bit more than the Coyotes pull in Mullet Arena.
That's funny. So we talked about Vegas winning the Stanley Cup. Obviously, the Kings just had their anniversaries of their 2 Stanley Cups. This past Sunday, I think, was the 11th year anniversary of the first cup in 2012, and then just yesterday was the 9-year anniversary of the 2014 Cup. Ironic that Alec Martinez scores a goal and wins the Stanley Cup on the same day that he did 9 years ago. So there was some deja vu there for sure. Any particular memories for you from either of those Stanley Cup winning teams? I know I had talked about on the show yesterday how 2014 for me was kind of I don't know. I enjoyed that more, even though I totally understand why that first win would be special to a lot of Kings fans as well. And it's special to me too, but I thought 2014 was, I don't know, a little more exciting for me. You got any memories of those Stanley Cups?
Well, they're two very different experiences, weren't they? I mean, they
Yeah,
were, 2012 was they almost kind of steamrolled their way to the cup. There was very little challenge or opposition there. It was great to win it. It was almost like a relief, a release that finally they'd won it.
yeah,
But 2014 for me was like a heart attack experience. It was like how many game sevens and like did they go throughout the entire West with 3 rounds of game sevens? Like it
they
was
did.
crazy.
Yeah,
Like and then the double overtime winner by Marty against the Rangers. It was they were heart attack games, but I think like you, I kind of enjoyed them more. I almost felt like they earned it a little bit more. It was harder for them to win it. But yeah, I remember staying up till all hours. It was 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning when they got finally lifted the cup on both times. It was great memories, great memories. I
do
can't
you?
wait till they get back there.
Yeah, for sure. So if you are watching a live game and it's early in the morning, do you have to catch yourself from cheering or anything because everyone else is sleeping and the
Yeah,
neighbors
well,
do? So
I when they won the cups, I didn't hold back, so it was hard to keep it all in. But during the playoffs this year against the Oilers, I kind of had to keep it down a little bit, because neighbors and the kids being asleep upstairs, my wife would kill me. So yeah, I had to kind of hold it in a little bit. But yeah, it's there's nothing like it. There's nothing like when your team wins a close game, and it's a great experience, great feeling.
No doubt. I definitely want to get your thoughts on this past season and some of the moves that the Kings have made so far and maybe some moves that they may make. But I want to let everybody know real quick. Obviously, I appreciate them listening and watching this episode of Locked on LA Kings, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Now, after you listen and watch this show, you should check out Locked on NHL. Obviously, they're going to have a reaction to the Vegas Golden Knights winning their first Stanley Cup title. Plus, the countdown to the NHL draft is now really getting going. Free agency coming up as well. So for reaction to all the latest NHL news, check out Locked On NHL, your daily show on all things going on in the NHL. That's Locked On NHL, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. All right, a little bit more with Stephen Barrett, the LA Kings fan over in Ireland. By the way, I saw today that the Vegas Golden Knights victory parade is going to be on a Saturday at night. That is, I mean, I know Vegas does things a little different. I don't know if you've ever been to Vegas,
No,
but
I haven't
I've
been to Vegas.
never heard of a championship parade at night on a weekend. That
Can you
place is going
imagine
to
the
be
carnage?
insane.
Can you imagine the carnage, Eddie? It's going to be absolutely nuts. I mean, I would love to be there just to see it, experience it. Like, I mean, God help the cops over there in Vegas.
I
They're going to have
know.
their hands full, man.
No, you're right. That is going to be a spectacle. I mean,
Yeah,
like I said, I
sure.
know Vegas does it. They know how to party, but wow,
Yeah, they do.
I couldn't believe when I saw that earlier
Yeah, I can't
today.
wait to see the pictures and the scenes. It's going to be something.
Yeah, it'll be unlike anything I know I've seen. I don't know how they do it overseas or anything, but like I said, I've never heard of a weekend night celebration. So wow, that's going to be something
A
else
weekend night celebration in Vegas,
in Vegas. Yeah. Oh, by the way,
of
yeah.
all
Oh, by the way,
places.
it's in
Like,
Vegas.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the LA Kings this past season. They make it to the playoffs again. Had a great regular season. Some injury issues going into the playoffs a little bit, but they lose to the Oilers for a second straight season in the first round. Obviously it's disappointing, but did you think that there was progress this year for the LA Kings? Are you optimistic in the direction they're going right now?
I am optimistic. I think they've definitely got some holes they need to fill. And there's a question mark hanging over Todd McClellan and him going into the final year of his deal. But I think you can't argue with the progress they've made. I mean, they equaled the regular season points record this season. They've had some development. Like Kempe he had a fantastic season, 40 goals. Gabe Velarde was coming along nicely. So I think, yep, there's progress. There's still some work to be done, but I'm optimistic. I think they'll definitely be a playoff team again next season, and it's about whether or not they can take that next step. I think Rob Blake's probably got some work to do regards filling out some holes on the roster, particularly in goal. Like it's only Phoenix Copley signed at the moment, so there's some moves coming ahead there, and you know how does it play out in the defense? Obviously, the top four guys are really good, but where does Brandt Clark fit in? Jordan Spence, does he start the season on the main club? Who's going to play bottom pair lefty? There's some questions that need to be answered this summer, I think. But it's good to see that he actually he got things started nice and early with the trade to move Peterson off the books. I think that was a big one, even though it was self-inflicted. It was a good bit of business to get him off the books and his salary.
Yeah, certainly you're clearly on top of things. Any thoughts on the Kings bringing in a goaltender? Anybody that you have in mind that you would like to see, or any other players that have interested you?
I like, to be honest, the players they've been linked with recently have been forwards. The Pierre-Luc Dubois and the recent one from the other day, Tom Wilson. Personally, I would love to see Tom Wilson if he could be healthy on the team. He'd be exactly the type of player you'd like to see on this team. He adds a little bit of grit and a bit of nastiness, and he's a pain to play against. But yeah, goalie wise, I mean, I don't know. Do you bring back Korpisalo on a 1 or 2 year prove it deal? There's going to be plenty of goalies available this summer by the looks of things anyway, so I think they'll have their pick. But I wouldn't be throwing a lot of money at a goalie. I think any team that's ever done that has usually lived to regret it. So I think a short-term deal on a $2 to $3 million dollar contract should work, I think. But they're going to have to move out some money first, and however they manage to do that, I don't know. I've seen Durzee's name linked, and obviously Arvidsson and Iafallo and Trevor Moore as well. So we'll see what happens there. There's going to be some moves this summer, I think.
Yeah, I think there has to be. And it is interesting when you see a guy like Aiden Hill play well enough to win a Stanley Cup. You're like, well, how much do we really need to invest in our goalies? I mean,
they just get hot at the right time, and that's it. You're a cup winner.
Yeah, it's not the days of Patrick Waugh and Martin Brodeur and those kind of guys anymore. It's it's a different, changing, evolving kind of NHL.
It's funny that the last two cup-winning goalies were actually, former Coyotes goalies as well. Aiden Hill was a former Coyote. Darcy Kemper, former Coyote. They seem to do quite well at developing and bringing along goalies there. And I know the Kings are starting to fill out their goaltending excellence department. So maybe pluck some guys from the Coyotes might be a good idea,
I mean, Kirill Velmelka was a name that was coming up around the trade deadline last year.
Exactly.
So maybe so. Maybe you're onto something there. Well, Stephen, it was great to be able to visit with you. So cool to hear your story. Is there anything else you wanted to share about being a hockey fan in Ireland as we kind of wrap it up here, or being a Kings fan?
No, not really. It's been great to chat to you, Eddie, to be honest. It's great to chat Kings hockey with someone. As I said to you before we went on the air there, that it's not often I get to do it. So it's been a pleasure, and I want to say thank you for having me on. It's been great to chat to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's there's different stories involving Kings fans all over the place. We've had one listener I know is in Japan. There's just, you never know where someone is going to be listening or watching. And so it's great to hear your story, to find out that we have a very passionate, educated, informed Kings fan right now over in Ireland. And we'll definitely stay in touch on Twitter, and look forward to, again, hopefully get you out here to LA for a game here in the near future.
For sure. That's great. Thanks a million, Eddie.
All right, Stephen, take care. And we'll talk to you. We'll keep in touch. Take care.
Slán.
All right. That was Stephen Barrett in Ireland, and we thank him so much for his time. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. I noticed him on Twitter, and obviously, like I said, his Twitter account has Ireland in the name, and then you go and you look at his information, you're like, wow, this guy really is a Kings fan over in Ireland. We'll see if we can get him on and get his story, and I'm so happy that he did such a great job on the interview. The connection sounds great. Technology is an amazing thing, isn't it? You can speak to somebody 5,000 miles away, and it's like he's in the next room. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. We're going to have some more Kings fans interviews coming up in the off season. I'm really glad that we can make those connections with Kings fans, because we're all in this together, no matter if you're in Ireland or wherever. We've got a passion for the same thing, the players and the team, and it all kind of brings us together, which is a really, really cool thing. All right. So want to let you everydayers know, and it's awesome to know that Steven is an everydayer. That was awesome to hear. Coming up on tomorrow's show, I think we're going to have a breakdown of the potential goalies available for the LA Kings, guys that are free agents, guys that maybe are draft targets for the LA Kings to shore up their net. And of course, on Friday's show, as always, we have the Kings fan feedback show. If you have any stories maybe of Kings fans in different places you want to share, that would be pretty cool and maybe kind of fit in with the topic as well. If you want to send an email, the email address is always lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE, lockedoneddie@gmail.com. You can always leave comments in the YouTube, on the YouTube episodes down in the comment section as well. We'd love you to stay interactive with the show by following us on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you as always for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And as always, go Kings go.